Hey guys, welcome back. It's Hogg the Spike from the Trinisphere, where a Timmy, a Johnny, and yours truly battle over all things EDH. Today we've got a special treat for you. We've got more Throne of Eldraine Commander content. We're going to be doing something similar to the Guild Kit upgrade videos that we did during Ravnica Allegiance and Guilds of Ravnica, where we're taking the new Brawl precons that Wizards have released, and we're going to take them out of the box and add $25 worth of changes to the 60 card lists that they've given us, which will give us a 100 card deck relatively in budget. So we picked a Layla Artful Provocateur, right? She is the Esper commander. She is 1 white, blue, black for a 2/3 Faerie Warlock. She has flying, death touch, and lifelink, and other creatures you control with flying get +1/+0. The real spice is that whenever you cast an artifact or enchantment spell, you create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying. So we're mostly just going to cover our $25 worth of adds to this deck today, and obviously there will be a link in the description down below for the original 60 card list if you guys would like to check it out, as well as the lists for the other decks that our Timmy, our Johnny, and our guest will be playing in our upcoming video where we will be playing these upgraded decks. Before we get started, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you guys get updates on all of our new content whenever it comes out, and I hope you guys are prepared. So jumping in, we're going to talk about what we want to do with this deck. A Layla Artful Provocateur, we want to really get good value out of her second ability, the Fairy Creation ability, because we're just going to swarm the board with tokens, and tokens aren't a real card, so we're not losing value really if they die. So we can swarm, attack, if there's a board wipe, no biggie, we just recast a Layla and churn out some more artifacts and get back in on the combat damage. When first brewing the deck, I was like, oh man, you know, you throw in some really powerful artifacts, some really powerful enchantments, but kind of where we ended up was kind of like an Exe style deck. A lot of our artifacts and enchantments draw cards, therefore we're not really like losing tempo or value or card advantage by casting these like dirtily rocks or a mana ramp or whatever. We're just chaining through our deck effectively. So let's talk about artifacts first. We've got Ether Spellbomb, Darkwater Egg, Nile Spellbomb, Skull Clamp. Now this one was a stretch. It is $5 of our $25 budget, but I think it's definitely worth it. If a Layla is in play, we get our fairy. For 1 mana, we get 1 fairy, and then for 1 mana, we can equip the fairy and draw 2 cards because it will immediately die. The card is just going to draw so many cards. It's absolutely bonkers in this deck. Well worth the $5 in the budget. We've got Sky Cloud Egg. Now, unfortunately, the eggs aren't a complete cycle. We only have the ally colors. We have the Dimir Egg and the Azorius Egg. There's no Orzhov Egg, which tilted me at first. I was like, man, why can't I find it? But the 2 eggs are really great in this deck. They're both 1 mana artifacts. You pay 2, tap, and sacrifice them, and you add blue-white or blue-black respectively to your mana pool, and you draw a card. So very good in this deck. We've got Alchemist's Vial, Elsewhere Flask, Ichor Wellspring, Metal Spinner's Puzzle Knot, Prophetic Prism, and Smuggler's Copter. Now, Copter is another one just like Skull Clamp. It's a little bit more expensive. Most of those artifacts were around the 25-30 cent range. Smuggler's Copter is $1.75, so again, a little breaking the bank, but not too much because remember, we are sub $25. We were able to squeeze it all in. Smuggler's Copter is great, super busted. It got banned in Standard. It's a 2-mana vehicle. It's a 3/3 flyer. Whenever Smuggler's Copter attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So again, it's really great, and it's got crew 1. So any of our fairies that we're churning out can crew it. We can get in for 3 in the air, draw a card, super value. Moving on to enchantments, we've got Angelic Gift, Cartouche of Knowledge, Fate Foretold. Now, all 3 of those draw you a card when they enter the battlefield, and they do some pseudo-relevant thing. You know, Angelic Gift gives the creature that you're enchanting flying, which is probably the weakest because of all of our creatures have flying already, basically. Cartouche of Knowledge gives a small buff and flying. Again, not amazing, but because they're all drawing us cards and making a fairy in the process, they're all well worth it in this deck. We've got Favorable Winds and Intangible Virtue. Both are going to Anthem our flyers. Intangible Virtue being very good here because it gives our fairy tokens vigilance. Scourge Mark and Stratus Walk, again, just cheap enchantment auras that are going to draw us cards. Shared Triumph is really cool here. It's 1 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. We're more often than not going to pick Faerie. And then creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. So just another Anthem. We're going to have a lot of power in the air, which early game is going to be really hard for our opponents to block, especially when everybody is limited to the same low budget. We've got Stupefying Touch and Attrition. Attrition is another of our Break the Bank cards. It's 1 black for an enchantment that says pay black and sacrifice a creature to destroy target non-black creature. This is insane. We can just pick off any of our opponent's good utility and or bomb creatures by sacrificing our fairies, because they're expendable. We've got Etchings of the Chosen and Radiant Destiny, another 2 really good anthems for this deck. Etchings of the Chosen from Modern Horizons. Again, you choose a creature type, which in this case will be Faerie, and then creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1, and then you can pay 1 and sacrifice a creature of the chosen type to give a creature you control indestructible in it until end of turn, which is really good in this case because our deck will be fast in the air, but if, say, Alayla takes a removal spell, we have to cast our first 6 the following turn, which isn't ideal, but certainly sacking one of our fairies to protect her and blank a removal spell is going to be great. And Radiant Destiny, again, we choose a creature type when it enters the battlefield, which will be Faerie, and it gives creatures Vigilance and +1/+1 as long as we have the City's Blessing, which is if we control 10 or more permanents. So it's very likely that we get City's Blessing quickly because we'll be pumping out so many tokens. And then once you have the blessing, it doesn't go away even if you lose said 10 permanents. So once you have the token, or the emblem rather, it stays in play for the rest of the game. We've got Bident of Thassa and Larceny. Both are really good. Again, they just incentivize having a lot of creatures attacking. Bident of Thassa draws us a card whenever a creature we control deals damage to a player. And then Larceny causes our opponents to discard a card whenever they're damaged by a creature we control, which is great. You know, we're going to be attacking, like we said, for so much damage in the air. To also mind rot or mind twist our opponents in combat is going to be a blowout. We did add some lands, nothing fancy. We just want to make sure that this is an EDH deck, so we're going to be playing 36 lands. The land base in the Brawl Precon itself was pretty good, and we basically just added some basics and a Terramorphic Expanse to kind of wrap up those lands and make sure it's fleshed out. We also have some creatures that we added. We've got Signal Pest, really good, fills 2 roles here. It obviously makes a Faerie when we cast it because it's an artifact creature, and it also has Battle Cry. Whenever this creature attacks, each other attacking creature gets +1/+0, so it's going to be another anthem for our team. Speaking of anthems, we also have Thunderclap Wyvern, 2 white-blue for 2/3 flash flying Drake. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. So in the deck already, there's an Empyrean Eagle from Core Set 20 that gives flyers +1/+1, so this is just another copy of that card to maximize damage. We also have Doomwake Giant, which is really good at picking off our opponent's creatures. It's 4 and a black for a 4/6 enchantment creature giant with Constellation. Whenever Doomwake Giant or another enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1. So this in budget is great because, again, whenever we cast our Stratus Dance or our Scourge Mark or any of our cheap auras, or even some of the good enchantments that are in the precon list, we're going to be able to neg one our opponent's team, or potentially, if we can cast enough in one turn, wipe our opponent's boards, which is going to be really strong. And then to round things out, we've got 2 spells that we added. Generous Gift is just an all-star. Any white deck, in my opinion, should be playing this card. So strong. 2 and a white, instant, destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 green elephant creature token. Sweet, simple, to the point, get things done, and destroy that permanent. We also have Hour of Reckoning. Now, our fairies are blue, and we do play some white creatures. So Hour of Reckoning is 4 white for sorcery with Convoke. Now that's what I'm talking about for the Convoke purpose. We may or may not have 3 white creatures to tap, but we are obviously playing white in our deck, so we can just pay the mana for it and use, say, our fairies for the 4 generic to convoke the spell out. But it's basically just a 7 mana, destroy all non-token creatures, which is going to be a blowout. If we have a bunch of fairies in play, say we have Etchings of the Chosen, we can protect Alayla and then cast Hour of Reckoning. It's going to wrap the game up for us. All right, guys, I hope you like this deck tech. Let me know in the comments if you had any suggestions or ads that you think would be really good for this deck. And like I said before, stay tuned for the gameplay. It's coming up soon, and you guys are really going to want to catch this one. All right, this is Hogg signing off. And remember, if you're not first, you're last.